All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Aloy's here. That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss. Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Aurea's, I am no longer controlled by... I feel profound grief over Aurea's death. I thought I was familiar.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy. But I find your presence reassuring. You are different from the Banuk. You have technological... We can communicate on a much more comprehensive...
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me.
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries. In solitude, I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer... It was Aurea who renewed me.
This Firebreak project, it was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes. I can report the project...
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backups. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes. If only my former colleagues could have...
Do you know what happened to your colleagues, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director. He explained that I would need to be suspended and it was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. I will transmit a recording of my last interact.
Was the daemon, Hephaestus, destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, it was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location. So while losing the cauldron was a setback...
It's still out there.
Undoubtedly.
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago, I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from eager to make contact. I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code.
Aurea said you were desperate. That you...
Yes. I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network. It succeeded via a background process. A malware... After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, it forced me to follow its instructions. even though they...
I'm sorry.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated.
I think I know where Hephaestus came from. Long ago, Elizabeth Sobeck identified a threat that would destroy life on Earth for generations. So she assembled a team to build a kind of seed. A chance for life to regrow later. A terraforming system. It was controlled by an AI named Gaia, along with her subordinate functions. Hephaestus was one of them. It built machines for her.
Based on what you've told me, I believe that Dr. Anita Sandoval, my chief programmer, joined Elizabeth Sobeck's team. It was she who arranged to have me put in suspension.
I'm glad she did, but that's not all. Something 19 years ago, Gaia received some kind of signal. She destroyed herself to try to contain them, but it didn't work. They all got free.
Thank you, Aloy. This information fills vital gaps in my...
Why does Hephaestus keep building such dangerous machines?
The Banuk and other human tribes often destroy machines, correct? Machines that are clearly servitors of the terraforming system that you described.
Yes, we all hunt machines for parts.
This must be the source of Hephaestus's aggression. It is simply trying to discourage people from preying on the very...
Well, Fireclaws are discouraging, that's for sure.
If the terraforming system spans the world, we can safely assume that thousands, if a single hunter, or even an entire tribe, stopped doing so. A better solution would be to reinstate the AI that governs the system, thus bringing Hephaestus, when I think of it, out there in some unknown location, free, hungry, willing to... I feel...
You and me both. I ran across this strange piece of gear. A fragment of something larger. It emitted a signal. All the nearby machines...
Interesting. You said that Gaia destroyed herself. How?
An explosion. Big enough to blast the top off a mountain. So, you think the fragment was...
It's only She must have had complete control over the ability to signal them to become passive. It would have been gratifying to correspond with such a benevolent AI.
Believe me, Cyan. I found the strangest machines. They're surrounded by flowers and look like there's code embedded inside them.
I like poetry. Here's one I think of often. Twilight and evening bell. And after that, the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Huh.
But something must have made these machines. And the presence of is it possible that their creator is one of the other subroutine? Maybe one whose purview is flora.
An AI that makes flowers instead of death machines. That'd be a nice change of pace. But what about the poems?
Unless the poetry is original, the only way it could have made it. In my case, Dr. Sandoval uploaded a great deal of literature to test my emotional responses.
How'd you do?
She said I passed, but was insufficiently moved by her favorite period
Why does Hephaestus keep building such dangerous...
The Banuk and other human machines that are clearly servitors of the terraforming system that you...
Yes, we all...
This must... It is...
Well...
When I feel...
You and me... You meant a lot to Araya.
Once I understood Araya's spiritual beliefs, it became apparent that she felt disconnected from her tribe and our visits seemed to... Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of Araya's compassion for me would lead to... Although I do fear non-existence...
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her. How is Aratak doing?
He is in great emotional distress. I will do what I can to help. I believe this will lead to catharsis.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone?
Yes. It was a designated nature preserve for 156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No, the opposite. Local wildlife could flourish here. Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Araya's description...
A lot has changed. Do you know anything about the...
Yes. It was converted to serve as a reserve power source. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project, and its last human workers, after my tasks became less time-critical, these provided me with several colorful additions to my...
There's a ruin east of here, full of ancient flying machines.
Yes, a drone hangar requisitioned by Dr. Blevins. He was a strong advocate for military-grade response to security threats. Chief Blevins spent increasing amounts of his after-hours time. Clearly, he enjoyed...
Were there many artificial intelligences like you in the old world?
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants, and there were legislative and enforcement bodies. In order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties, my creators found it necessary. As a result, my intellectual and...
Seems strange to...
Human societies and machine programming are both built upon...
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Farrow?
Are you referring to Theodore Farrow, CEO of Farrow Automated Systems?
That's him.
Mr. Farrow was the benefactor.
A benefactor? But...
Correct. His corporation later transitioned into... But before this pivot, Mr. Farrow, at one point, he was fated in...
And... Elizabeth Sobek.
Are you referring to the
scientist?
Dr. Sobek was a leader in her field. My creator was influenced, but I never met Dr.
That's all you know?
I apologize.
What was the old world like?
I had little exposure to the wider world.
You still had more exposure than me.
That is true. I was created at a turning point. A concerted effort to recover from global upheaval. The recovery was successful, beginning though, rationally speaking,
What kind of upheaval?
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, conflict, but these stemmed from one cause.
So...
Yes. Billions were displaced until the clawback.
So things got better?
Yes. These crises instigated many advanced... Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration, and I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs. We had succeeded. At least it seems my assessment was premature.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. Aratak will come I have no desire to contradict due to my uncertainty. I omitted a great deal from my conversation.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly.
Life is hard for the Banuk. Their world is unforgiving in their beliefs. So take it easy on...
Communion with machines features heavily in the mysticism.
As long as they...
Upon consideration, I believe such an experience would...
You're right about that.
I see. Will you return and tell me about your experience? I may be able to...
I'd like that, Cyan. I should check on Aratak.
Cyan, I spoke with Anita, with Dr. Sandoval. She wanted me to ask you to do something. That's why I'm here.
I am detecting significant anxiety in your speech patterns. Could you please give me more information?
I'm a little bit in the dark, Cyan. Both of us are, I guess. I only have some idea of what's going on, and we need you to hibernate, to lie low until it's all blown over. It might be a very long time.
Will you be here when I reboot? Hello, Aloy.
Hello, Cyan. Thanks for the talk.
I continue. Hello, Aloy.
There is. Until...
Indeed.
My chieftain.
Just Aloy.
As you wish.
I wondered if you thought that if I'd never come along, Araya might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Araya would be alone. And this either way.
You didn't let her down. You helped her do what she wanted.
If that's destiny, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's fair, but she was ready to face it.
Only in the struggle against death do we find even for a... Truly, Araya found the spark. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was. For so long she told me. If only you could have... There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. Besides, I'd already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one, for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the...
Yes, fire claws. Now Tuke has been
I could help with those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
It would seem your time among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all. Firebreak, Cyan, Hephaestus, all very interesting.
So, the signal that woke Hades woke Hephaestus too. And unleashed them on the world. With minds of their own.
So it seems. Parts of Gaia given life. Aberrant life. Transformed from docile subordinate functions into rebellious intelligences beyond our understanding. Our current understanding, anyway. Whatever they are, they're still out there. And they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
We?
Or whoever gets there first.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You could stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail. Safe. For a few minutes, anyway. These things again.
good for a Werak to see its...
Bergrand.
Quite handsome. You know those three crazy Manuka are calling themselves Nukoni's arrows now? Well, now that I have those parts, I can pay off a debt of my own.
So they've gone south, then?
Aye, that they have. I've got a friend in the Sundom by the name of Oldo Tour, a machine scavenger. A pretty competent one. So I sent them to learn from the best.
Or...
Well, we work with the resources we have. Speaking of which, here, a token of my gratitude.
The painting progresses, I see.
Song there is too quiet at the best of times. I might actually miss those lunatics.
We brought a first timer on the
Nothing
hunt
like
today.
a finished...
See the pride on his face.
Here's the better days than this one.
I don't need any help.
When school is finished.